This is my question for you. Is the reason why you haven't implemented all the things that you've paid for because they were too damn complicated and you didn't have the capacity to execute on them? The deeper that you get into business, the more you start to uncover the fine print of being a CEO. There's all these levels of awareness. There's all these nuances that you literally are ignorant to or completely unaware of when you first start. Burnout is usually the result of poor energy management. You need to have a process, a framework, a habit, a ritual. These are practices that you commit and are disciplined to doing. You don't just do them because they're natural. If you are not managing yourself correctly, there's no way that you're gonna be able to long-term sustain managing the business or managing the people within the business correctly. Can I get an amen or amen? Can I get a true or a true? But I favored the topic of discussion that most of my clients, my paid clients inside of Leverage Your Legacy selected. There was another topic that got higher ratings from my audience, but we're talking today about the topic that was rated the most by my clients. So I feel like our vote should have a higher weight, and today you guys won, okay? So I want to talk about how do you structure your business model to reduce burnout and to create more balance. I'm going into my 6th year of business, and it's a really interesting dynamic when you are growing your business and really starting to, like the deeper that you get into business, the more you start to uncover the fine print of being a CEO. There's all these levels of awareness. There's all these nuances that you literally are ignorant to or completely unaware of when you first start, that starts to get uncovered and you start to unpack the more that you grow in your business. And I was talking about this yesterday over on my Instagram stories as well, about is anybody else noticing, just within the coaches that you follow, the course creators that you follow, the influencers that you follow, is anybody else noticing people really taking intentional breaks right now? Prioritizing the sustainable growth over fast, uncontrollable growth. Is anybody else noticing more creators just kind of pausing, streamlining things, taking more time to rest and recharge, being really intentional with how they're making decisions in this season right now? And I know for me, in my circle of peers, I'm noticing that very, very heavily, where more of my friends are taking sabbaticals, more of my friends are being really intentional about the offers that they deliver, cutting offers from their business model so that they can reduce the amount of complexity, so they can streamline things. I think so many people in the online space prioritize this hyper fast exponential growth. It's like if you're not doubling every year or tripling every year, like you feel like a failure. And I know that's something I have struggled with over the past few years in business, that like it's normalizing. You think it's normal to be in a constant state of exponential increase. And the reality is an exponential increase or doubling and tripling every year is not sustainable for most people. And it's very difficult to sustain for 4, 5, 6, 7 years back to back to back. Like at some point you have to slow down and calibrate and get yourself together operationally and get yourself together from a humanity perspective. And like, I really wanted to talk about today's conversation because, one, again, most of my clients voted for this topic, but two, it's something that I have been very, very intentional with as I've been growing my business model. And I wanted to talk and share kind of the nuances of that and how you can start to think about structuring your business, even if you're working with only one paid client, or if you're somebody who's, making $500,000 a year. Even if you're somebody who's making $1 million plus per year, how you structure your business model impacts your personal sanity and really dictates the level of sustainability that you will experience, and whether or not, like, how burnout and how balance can be, how those types of experiences can impact you as an individual, okay? So I'm really glad you guys have tuned in. There's 3 attributes of structuring a business model to prevent burnout that I think is important, okay? So there's 3 different things that you have to manage as you're growing your business. You have to manage yourself, you have to manage the people, and you have to manage the business. And again, these are things that nobody tells you about when you start your business, but you have got to develop the leadership skills, develop the acumen, develop your management skills to manage yourself, to manage the people, and to manage the business. And I want you guys to write this down for your neighbor, put this in your notebook. We'll have some really healthy notes around this. Is when you think about managing yourself, I did a post yesterday on Twitter where I said that burnout is usually the result of poor energy management. Write that down. Burnout is usually the result of poor energy management. When we think about managing yourself, anytime anybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, my workload is too much right now, like, oh my gosh, work is X, Y, and Z. Normally, work exasperates the issue, but work is rarely the cause of burnout from my personal experience. My burnout has been because of the cause of poor energy management. And when I think about energy management, I think about my sleeping habits. I think about my eating habits. I think about my fitness, me moving my body, my workout habits. I think about, do I have processes, tools, rituals, routines to manage my emotions and to process my feelings? That is something that you have to learn how to manage. Managing your emotions, managing your mindset, managing your feelings, managing the irrational aspects of what it means to be a human. Those are things that you have to learn how to manage. Energy management to me also includes knowing how to create and enforce boundaries. That is a huge part of energy management. So when I think about managing yourself as an individual, this influences how you design your business model. Because let's say if you are the business owner who is sleep deprived, you are eating processed foods, living off of chicken nuggets, tater tots, and, easy mac and cheese. And I'm speaking with myself on that one. If you are the business owner who doesn't even go for a walk 30 minutes a day, you barely move your body. The only time you move is from your bed to your home office, to your couch, back to your bed. If you think about your energy management, if you are just sucked into the drama, you feel as if you take everything personally, you get stuck in the spiral of negative self-talk, please tell me, how are you going to be in a position to make clear-headed and clear-minded critical decisions for your business? You won't. You will end up running yourself in circles in the business, blaming the overwhelm as a result of the business without taking into consideration that your mental health, your personal state of being, how you are managing the body, the vessel that you have been given, that is the thing that dictates and determines everything else. So if you are not managing yourself correctly, there is no way that you're going to be able to long-term sustain managing the business or managing the people within the business correctly. Can I get an amen or amen? Can I get a true or a true? It is so very real and relevant. And this is a huge reason when you think about those different attributes of managing yourself. In addition to that, it's developing the skill set. Have you learned the skills to sharpen your abilities to make critical decisions in the business? When I talk about managing your emotions, managing your thoughts, managing what influences you based off of what you consume on your timeline, you have got to learn how to self-coach. Self-management starts with the ability to self-coach. Somebody write that down, put that in your notebook. Managing your self-management is a function of self-coaching. And this is why when I work with clients or where clients choose to enroll in my program, I am very, very big on our coaching philosophy is rooted in teaching our clients how to think, not telling our clients what to do. Of course, we provide processes and frameworks that educate our clients on the principles and the processes to deliver on the promise that we enrolled them into. But when it comes to them making the decisions on the day-to-day in their business, we have to train them, teach them, how do they coach themselves to make the decisions? How do they coach themselves to follow through on a decision that they've already made? How do we coach our clients to have a higher level of trust around their own intuition and the decisions that they have committed to? I think this is a really, really important attribute in the coaching industry and the course creating industry specifically, because there's too many times clients will enroll in programs, abdicate themselves of the responsibility of being the decision maker in their business to their coach, to the consultant, to the course creator that they hired. That's very dangerous territory, especially when you do it unconsciously. Okay, so when I think about, many of us do it unconsciously because we're doing something for the very first time. We are imposters. None of us have built the business that we're building. We've never done this before. So we can second guess and doubt ourselves because we've never gone through the path. We've never experienced the journey. But the issue that comes into play is that, okay, let's pause. Let me wait a minute here. If I am expecting that my coach makes all the decisions for me, if I am delegating that responsibility to somebody else, how am I able to sustain my business long term? And then you start to put yourself into a position where you believe that you have no control over the outcomes of what you're doing on a day-to-day or how you're driving the business. Nobody wants to be in that position. Nobody wants to feel as if their decisions, their thoughts, their ideas, their intuition is not influencing the direction that they're trying to build their business in. Then it like turned into this cycle of like crazy self-sabotage and negative self-talk, and like it turns into this whole situation, right? So like it's really important that when you are working with a coach, when you enrolled maybe in a digital course or whatever, you were very intentional with saying, okay, what is the responsibility that I bear in this relationship? And when you are screening for coaches that you hire or for programs that you join, for group programs that you enroll in, that is something that I would be including your due diligence process. Is what are your processes, or what's the part of your coaching philosophy that is going to help me become a better decision maker as it pertains to the frameworks that is embedded in your curriculum? You should be screening for that in programs. Like that should be part of your due diligence process. Is do they have processes? Do they have frameworks? Have they developed some sort of coaching philosophy or methodology that is rooted or has some component of being able to help you understand how to make decisions in the business? This is a huge reason, and I'm talking a lot about managing yourself, because if you cannot master your ability to manage yourself, there's no way that you can sustainably long-term build a business that does not create burnout. Because if you are not able to manage your own thoughts, to manage your decision-making, to manage your emotions and feelings, to manage the boundaries that you enforce about what you consume, what you don't consume, what you say yes to, more importantly, what you say no to. Like when people say, I want to be a boss, this is like bare minimum cost of entry. If you want to be the capital letter CEO, you have to be able to manage the SELF yourself. And I think when you step into being a business owner, there is nobody else that you have to report to. You don't have a board of directors that is holding you accountable to the shareholders. You do not have a manager or a boss who's giving you performance reviews. You don't even have peers who can help quality check and keep you in balance. You have yourself. And you think about if you want to start to expand that network, okay, maybe you do want to be around some peers. You join a group coaching program. You are the one that makes all the decisions about who you're surrounding yourself with, the group programs you choose to enroll so that you can have some peers and have some counterparts, the coaches that you hire to help lead you as your board of advisors. You make all of those decisions. So it's so important that you are managing yourself. I don't work out because I want to be summertime fine. Like I don't work out because I want to have a chiseled abs and like really defined thighs. Like literally the only reason why I work out is because my body requires it for productivity and for energy creation. I work out literally so that I can be a better business owner. I literally work out so that I have more energy to coach my clients and to coach my team. That is the only reason why I work out. Because I think sometimes that we forget that our bodies are machines. And what we fuel it with is so important. Like imagine if you drive in, I don't know, a vehicle that takes premium gas and you put regular gas in it. You will destroy the vehicle. You will destroy the engine over time. You are the exact same way. Your body, if you want to be a high performer, meaning if you're a business owner, I think you need to be functioning as a high performer. You have to be really intentional about what fuel are you using to put into your body. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? How are you moving your body? How are you managing your thoughts, your emotions, and your feelings? How are you creating boundaries and enforcing those boundaries? What are you saying yes to? What are you saying no to? And it is so important. So if you want to structure a business that doesn't lead to these really hyper intense states of burnout, this is what's required. So if you're the person that's like, oh, I hate drinking water, baby. If you want to be a better business owner, stay hydrated. Like if you're the business owner that hates eating vegetables, eating fruit, eating like fresh food, guess what? If you want to make more money, go eat better. Get a salad instead of those chicken nuggets. You know, you can still get your truffle fries, but make sure you got a half salad on the plate too. It is required. It is required. It is required for long-term sustainability. It is required. So that is what I want to say on managing yourself. To me, burnout is a sign of poor energy management. If you are somebody who is constantly in a state of overwhelm, constantly feeling like you're running from one thing to the next, you're always late, your memory is lacking, your attention to detail is poor, like you feel as if you're not the type of person who is clear when making decisions, or you avoid making decisions, pause for a moment and look at, how am I managing my energy? How am I managing my energy? And when it comes to decision making, have I been investing in leadership, people I follow, people I consume, people I hire? After I work with them, I should have developed in my ability to evaluate my own data, to understand how to make decisions based off the data that I am receiving and getting in the business. That my skill set is being sharpened on how to ask myself better questions to help me make decisions and determine what's going on in my business, so I know what my next step forward is. That should be something you are screening for. To me, there is no reason why you should be hiring a coach and after you work with them, you are actually worse at making decisions than before you came in there. You doubt yourself even more than before you worked with them. Like, you second guess constantly and you have no framework or habits, rituals, routines, methods, models to help you get better at making decisions based off of the information that is presenting itself in the business. That is, to me, is a non-negotiable. I can spend a whole episode just talking about self-management, but to me, that is a really, really important thing. So that's the first thing with self-management. The other thing that I would say, that, yeah, I can talk about that all day long. The last thing I'll say about self-management, okay? When you think about self-management, the thing that I want everybody here to understand is that it's not something that you are just born with. Many of us were not actually taught anything about this as kids, in school, in college, from our parents. But I want you to start to think about, it's not what do I innately do out of my motivation of self. Write this down. I want you guys to think about, you need to have a process, a framework, a habit, a ritual. These are practices that you commit and are disciplined to doing. You don't just do them because they're natural. Like, I do not believe that it is natural for us to function as these types of leaders just innately. I think it's a skill set that we have to develop. I think maybe some people maybe are born with a higher level of it, but I just think that these are skill sets that we have to learn. Do I have a habit for fueling my body with food? Do I have a habit of moving my body from a fitness perspective? Do I have a habit, rituals, routines? Am I invested in things to help me manage my emotions? Have I invested in skill sets and tools to teach me how to self-coach myself? I just want to say that because I think some people will say, oh gosh, I'm terrible at food. I'm terrible at eating. I'm terrible at managing my thoughts. I'm terrible at boundaries. You're terrible because you just haven't yet learned the skill. You were terrible at riding a bike until you practice riding a bike. You were terrible, you might still be terrible at driving a car until you practice driving the car. So I just want to say this, is that managing yourself is a skill set that you learn. It is not something that you are just innately born into. So I just want to say that for anybody who is maybe doubting themselves, feeling a little, applying pressure, it is a skill set, a skill set, a skill set, a skill set. And this is why, again, I'm so big on this. For any of my clients who are enrolled in Leverage or any of my clients who are in my mastermind, when they finish a lean launch, we review their data. But over the years, we've been really intentional on, we need to get better at teaching our clients how to understand their own data, to teach our clients how to make decisions based off their data. That is a skill set that you have to sustain the results that our process teaches you how to get. Too many times I see coaching program after coaching program who will help people get a result, which is great, and it looks really good on their testimonials on their sales page. But then you go look at those clients a year later. Were they equipped? Did they have the tools to sustain the result once they got it the first time? Most coaching programs do not even touch on that. So I just think it is so important, in my opinion, as you start to develop as a business owner, how can you be of better service to your clients? It's not just helping them get the result, but this is the thing that we don't put in our marketing. But to me, my validation of success at this stage of my business is how well can my clients, how are they able to repeat the result that I taught them how to get? Do they have the acumen? Do they have the critical thinking to be able to sustain the result once they've actually gotten it? And your ability to sustain results when you are launching, growing your business, enrolling more clients, designing a group program is, can you self-coach yourself? Do you know how to evaluate the data from your launch to help inform what new decisions you need to make? Like, it's not just about, Jay, is my copy good enough? You need to have a process to validate for yourself. Like, there's a framework that you follow to help you determine whether or not your lean launch titles are specific enough. There's a process to follow, a framework to follow to know, okay, based off of me getting a 60% conversion rate during my launch, what do I now need to do based off of that data? Being dependent on Jerisha or on one of the program coaches, we have developed frameworks to teach our clients how to do that. And I think that's just a very critical component of growing a business that is sustainable, that does not lead to burnout. You have to know how to do these things. So that's all on self-management. Managing yourself, that could literally be a whole episode, but like that's like the high level components of it. The second thing is managing your people. In the very beginning of your business, the only people that you are managing are your clients, okay? You are managing your clients. You are managing the expectations that they have. You are managing whether or not you deliver on what you promised. You are managing the relationship of your clients. As your business grows, if you're a coach that leads a group program, probably after you have like 50 to 70 clients enrolled, then your priority really shifts to like, how do I manage my team? So in the beginning, you're managing your clients. That's the people that are of top priority. Am I clear on understanding who my client really is? Am I clear on understanding how do I qualify a client? I think that's really important in the beginning when it comes to managing people. And what I mean by people being your clients, please write this down. Do I actually understand what the true qualifiers are to enroll the best clients? Do I have a really strong qualification process? Do I understand what promise I deliver that is not just a nice to have, but is a high level of urgency it is critical to solve? And what are the qualifiers that a lead needs to possess for that to be in alignment, where it's an easy yes, because it's a critical need and it's a qualified individual? That's a real concern that people are willing to pay premium for. When I talk about managing people, it's managing that alignment between the promise you deliver, how you publicly articulate that, how well the articulation of that value that you provide is done front facing. You'll know if you're articulating your value well based off the number of qualified leads that enroll in your program. You need to have a qualification process to know how to vet whether or not a lead is qualified. And then do you have the abilities to manage that client relationship to fulfill the promise? That is the cycle of life. I'm like Lion King, Mufasa, the whole situation. That is the cycle of life when it comes to managing people in the early stages of growing your business. When I say managing people, that is what's required. And then after you get probably, like I said, 30 to 50 clients enrolled, then the shift goes from how do I now start managing my team, managing the dynamics of the team, managing really, and it's the same thing. All that testing, trial and error that you did to attract qualified leads, to deliver for those qualified leads and to retain those clients, you have to go that same skill set. Now you have to apply to building out your team. How do I attract quality candidates to work in my business? How do I screen and qualify those candidates for my business's needs? How do I determine the priority, the function of the job to match that with the hire that I just made so that I know that they can fulfill their role? Like, how do I design and improve my culture and help client team members feel a sense of belonging and like all of those things? I feel like when you think about managing people in a way to how to properly structure your business, like the priority in the beginning is managing the people of your clients. And then again, like I said, once you have actively enrolled, like 30 to 50 paid clients actively enrolled in your group program, then the shift really adjusts to managing people because you're going to need team to be able to grow beyond that. But those are two different skill sets, like two very different skill sets. And I think if anything else, when I think about structuring the business, this is why I'm such an advocate on simplicity. Simplicity is the way to have a sustainable business. For every offer, for every price point, for every variation of qualified or ideal client, every addition is a layer of complication. And when there are too many layers of complication, you crash because you don't have the capacity to manage the complexity. That is just the name of the game. So if anybody on here is in a season of like, oh my gosh, I feel burnt out. Oh my gosh, I feel super overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, like I am on the brink of breaking. I can guarantee it's because you are doing too damn much. You have overcommitted, overcomplicated, and you're over customizing. That is the recipe for torturing yourself. It is. There is no pride in being the one that can do it all for everybody at the approachable price point. Ain't nothing cute about being broke and burnt out. There is literally nothing cute. Your lashes ain't done, your makeup ain't done, your hair ain't done, your nails ain't done, your attitude ain't cute, and you broke? It's like, bruh, there is nothing admirable. Nobody's out here winning awards because they are doing too much, overcomplicating, over-customizing, over-committing themselves. That is not reflected in the cash flow. Nobody's winning an award for that. Okay, we're throwing tomatoes. It is not cute. Not cute at all, okay? Maybe the question for yourself is, where have I overcomplicated? Where am I over-customizing? And where am I over-committing myself that is incongruent with the capacity that is currently available and with the cash flow that can fund it, sustain it, manage it, and maintain it? Those are the 5 C's for today. If you had a little scorecard for yourself, it's like, where am I overcommitted? Where am I over customizing? And then you have to align that with capacity and cash flow. So if somebody's like on here like, well, Jay, my audience can't afford my service. Change the audience. Elevate the promise. Solve a more sophisticated problem for people who have the funds and are committed to doing the work. It's that simple. Well, I don't want to leave people behind. That goes back to self-management. You need to do some reframes and release this responsibility that you feel like you're holding on to. It's really that simple. It comes down to a choice. Who are you trying to prove yourself to? Who are you trying to flex for on a gram? None of them heifers pay your bills. You probably don't even know them individuals. Who are you comparing yourself to? Let that go. It's serving nobody. It's only harming and damaging you. No positive benefit. It's doing nothing. Not nada. Okay? So that's the second thing when it comes to sustainability. You have got to reduce the amount of complication. It needs to be dead simple. If you are making less than $1 million a year, you should not have more than 2 offers. Like primary offers where 80% of your revenue comes from it. If you do not have one, at max 2 offers that is responsible for 80% of your revenue, you're doing too much. You are doing way too much. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned over the years. It's not about what you can do. You are capable of doing a lot of things. You're probably good enough at doing a lot of things. Like, it's not about what you can do. It is, what can I sustain? What can I maintain? And what has the potentiality to be multiplied? That should be the filter that you are making decisions out of. It's not, oh, I can help this person, and this person solve this problem, and this problem. I know you can. I know you a goon. I know you a beast. I know you out here flexing, got skill sets. You can do it. I know that. You know that. We know that. Your girl next door know that. We all know that. Building a business is not about what you can do. Building a business is about what can you sustain, what can you maintain, and what has the potentiality to multiply. And make that make sense. So if you are selling a digital course for $300 because you can create a digital course, you can record some pre-recorded modules, you have read some blog articles that you know that people struggle with this, now we got to filter it through the Jerisha Hawk filter, the big capital letter CEO filter. Can I sustain my marketing and my messaging in a way that enrolls enough clients into this digital course at $300 to meet my financial goals? Do I have the cash flow? And do I have the large enough audience? It's a volume game. Can I sustain that amount of volume for a consistent period of time, month over month, to hit my goals? For most of us, the answer is no, myself included. This is why I charge high ticket. So, okay, then I need to be willing to trust in my capabilities to claim what is already true about results I already know how to get, and charge accordingly. So instead of me charging $300 for a digital course that I know that I cannot sustain the volume of leads that is required to make this program profitable, I cannot maintain that for the season of business that I am in. Please write that down. The season of business that I am in, every season requires something different. So for this season, you may not have the capacity or the capability yet to sustain that volume. So what do you need to do? You might need to raise your price, provide a more sophisticated solution, deliver on a more sophisticated promise so that you can charge $3,000 instead of charging $300. Learn how to articulate your value, and maybe you only got to work with a couple of clients every month. You can sustain that. You can sustain enrolling 3 to 5 clients every month versus having to enroll 30 to 50 clients every month. Like, make it make sense. Like, when you really ask yourself these questions, it simplifies a lot. But it's not about the reality of the situation that's unclear to us. It's, are you willing to make the decision? Are you willing to make the decision? It is not about what other people are doing or what can be done. You have to ask yourself, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do? Having a simple process, a simple launch strategy, having a simple sales process, having a simple tech stack, having a simple way to unpack your intellectual property, having a simple way to create marketing content, that might be what you need. If you've been the type of person that enrolls in course after course after course, hires coach after coach after coach, you chasing every launch strategy out there, and you're like, well, I don't want to go invest in something else because I've already invested in 4 courses that I didn't do. Clearly, I need to focus on doing the work that I already have access to. This is my question for you. Is the reason why you haven't implemented all the things that you've paid for because they were too damn complicated and you didn't have the capacity to execute on them? Doing a webinar funnel requires a lot of capacity. It requires a lot of capacity. It requires a learning curve from a tech perspective. It requires money that you may not have access to yet. Like, running live events is expensive AF. So many moving parts, so many moving pieces. You gotta have insurance, liability issues, like vendors, hotel room blocks, like it is complex. So you have to ask yourself, is the strategy that I am deploying from a marketing and sales perspective simplified enough for what capacity I have to actually execute? All those processes and strategies work. It's just, do you have the capacity to commit to actually doing them? I think sometimes people want to avoid the good question, the real question. Like, it's not like, okay, yeah, I need to grow my email list. Do you even like writing copy? I need to go do this, webinar funnel. Okay. It's not about what you can do. It's about what are you willing to actually do? What are you going to commit to doing until completion? This is why I'm such an advocate for my process. I'm such an advocate for the lean launch because it requires no tech. If you're watching this live stream or listening to this episode right now, you have all the tech that you need. Are you willing to do a live stream, share your perspective, invite somebody to get on a call with you and have a conversation? That's the whole process. That's the entire process. Like, in its most simplest term. The biggest thing that I want to focus on here when I talk about the people and talk about the offers and all of that is like, it's not about what can you do. It's about what are you actually willing to do. And those two things are not always one and the same. So if you are trying to structure your business in a way that you can prevent burnout and is sustainable, you got to be radically honest with yourself about the season of business that you are in. You're not a failure. You're not somebody who doesn't follow through. Like, maybe the things that you've invested in or the processes that you've tried were just too complex for the season that you were in. They might have required more capacity than you had currently available. And that's okay. Revisit that when you get there, but it might not be today. And going back, the third thing here of management is the business. You have to be able to manage the business. Being able to manage the business really influences how you structure everything. Like, when I talk about managing the business, like I mentioned before, if you are making less than $1 million a year, there should only be 1, at most 2, paid offers that you sell that make up 80% of your revenue. If you do not have 1 offer, that's like the best case scenario. At most 2 offers that make up 80% of your revenue, you are offering too many things. You are trying to sell too much, and I can guarantee you right now, long term, for more than 2 years, you will not have the capacity to maintain it and grow to $1 million. I don't know that many people that can do it unless they had an existing audience. But most people I know, most millionaires I know in the online industry, they got to $1 million with usually one core offer that made up 70 to 80% of their revenue. At most, they had two. And that's just the name of the game. So when you think about, how do I structure the business? You have to manage the business. You have to be the one to make the decisions about what offers make sense at what price point, delivering what promise for the season of business that I am in. If the numbers don't make sense on paper, it ain't gonna make sense in real life. And I think it's so much, if you want to structure a business that doesn't lead to burnout, it requires you having these radical conversations with yourself. It requires that you have take a level of responsibility over the decisions that you are making, and especially the decisions that you are avoiding. Not making a decision is a decision. Continuing to struggle in silence is a decision. Continuing to create and pre-record curriculum versus validating whether or not that offer will actually sell is a decision. You are focused on being busy versus focusing on doing the work that's required for the business. You won't sustain it. Of course you'll burn out. You spend all this time planning. No profit. Like, it's not about how much you can plan. It's how willing are you able to execute? How often are you able to execute? How courageous are you at making imperfect decisions over and over and over again? And instead of saying that practice makes perfect, practice leads to progress. That should be the definition of success. That's it. Anybody on here is a high functioning individual, meaning that you do not have like a mental condition or like something along those lines. Like if you are like a stable human being, if you are burnt out, I truly believe a lot of the time it is by choice. COVID was very, very real. I think that was a wake up call for so many of us because we were in a state of grief, and many of us are still in a state of grief for over 2 years. But then it goes back to, am I doing a good job managing myself? Where do I need to start saying no that I have not been saying no? What boundaries do I need to put in place and actually enforce them? Now might be the time, might be the invitation to say, okay, I need to start building rituals and routines around developing myself in this way, around learning how to coach myself through my emotions. I might need to hire a therapist. I got my Apple Watch just to track. My only goal every day is to walk for 30 minutes. Like, I'm not even talking about, you ain't even got to hire no personal trainer. I'm not trying to say you got to get out here and start doing all this extra stuff. Like, but I just need to say, did I move my body for 30 minutes a day? It could just be walking. And best believe counts. I turn on my Apple Watch and turn on indoor activity because that's still movement. Okay, that's still movement. I don't care what nobody say. That's movement too. At a real low level just in case. But like, that's movement. If you guys have husbands, have kids, maybe you are a caregiver for somebody else, you have got to take that into consideration when you're looking at your capacity. You probably need the simplest launch process and a high ticket offer for it to even make sense for you to be building the business. So when I think about managing the business, have you actually selected a business model that is congruent with the capacity that you have in this season? Have you selected a business model that is congruent with the capacity that you have in this season? That's a really important question. Really, really, really important question. If your business model is incongruent with your current capacity, you are setting yourself up to fail. It's not because you are a failure, it's because the equation doesn't add up. So it's like, am I playing a volume game or a value game? Am I playing a low ticket game or a high ticket game? Am I running with paid ads or am I playing the organic game? That's it. Both models work. It just doesn't align with the capacity that you have, with the problem that you solve for the person that you solve it for. That's literally all it boils down to. That's it. I think people were so blown away because I spend a lot of time educating you on like the evolution of the coaching industry and really unpacking the nuances as to why a program promise is so critical based off of market sophistication. And I think that was something that like 30 minutes into the training back in December, people were like, bruh, this should have been a couple of $1,000s easy, because what you've broken down, I have never heard anybody say before. I've never heard anybody articulate. When you start to understand the industry in which you are doing business, you start to have a greater level of awareness around the things that really matter. And when People a lot of time think about designing an offer or marketing without taking into consideration market sophistication and how the sophistication of our industry has matured over the last 40 years. So when you take that into consideration, that really helps you understand how to effectively position your offer. The good thing about this is most of your competitors are not factoring in market sophistication into how they're marketing, selling, and packaging their offers. Most people aren't doing that. So if you do that in and of yourself, it helps you get so much more clarity around what claims you need to be making, why you need to be making them, and how to articulate them, because it will penetrate and stand out so much because other people aren't doing it. So like, I'm really, really pumped about that. And then after that segment of the training, we start crafting your program promise statement and actually workshopping that, coaching people through it. And then we put you guys in breakout rooms and bring you back, and then there's a Q&A section. If you've ever wanted to experience coaching with me, so many people just said it's worth it just being in the room. And it really is. I think really curate a very high caliber of individuals who are just very sharp, who are like really great in their industry. So if nothing else, you'll be surrounded by some very high performers, people who are making a lot of money. So if you're not making a lot of money yet, this is a really great room to be in because it will be very inspiring, just what's possible. And if you are somebody who's already like generating revenue, earning cash flow, and all of that in the business, this will really give you, I think, that competitive edge and help you sharpen up. I know that you can deliver incredible results. The goal now is how do we effectively articulate that in a way that accurately dictates and describes the value of what's being delivered. And I think when you can master your ability to do that, it's a really beautiful thing. Earlier today, one of my tweets today, I thought this was kind of a good one-liner here, is when you can articulate your value, people stop questioning your value. Write that down. That's what Jerisha said. When you can articulate your value, people stop questioning your value. And I think a lot of the time when we are selling and building our business, and it's like, why am I getting all these objections? Why are people asking me for discounts? Why am I having to give away scholarships to enroll people into my program? Maybe I'm enrolling clients, but I'm not enrolling the volume that I want. If there's this level of convincing and this exhaustive experience of people questioning, we are selling intellectual property. As coaches, as service providers, we're selling intellectual property. There's nothing physical that people can see when they choose to work with you. Like when I bought this candle, it's a very physical thing. Like I know exactly what I'm getting. I can smell it. I can touch it. It's all the things. When you hire me as a coach or when I hire you as a coach, there's nothing tangible. So it's our responsibility to leverage language, words, vocabulary, and you have to create tangibility around the intellectual property that you're selling. And the way in which I've learned and have mastered and have repeated how to do of how you create that tangibility is first starts with a descriptive program promise. Being able to understand what can you promise your prospects? What can you guarantee? What result can you deliver? And then how do you articulate that based off of how they are making buying decisions? That is how you create tangibility around something that is intangible. So having a program promise statement is, I think, one of those vehicles that allows you to have that tangibility around something that is intangible, which is a requirement for any of us selling intellectual property. It's not like I can build you a website and then you can see the finished product. It's not that tangible. It's not that concrete. So that's part of our job as coaches, as done-for-you providers, as agency owners, is how do we articulate that tangibility for something that is intangible? And that's a skill set. It's a skill set. And then you have to now how do I do that over and over and over and over and over again in my marketing, in my messaging, in my content, on my live streams, in my sales calls? It is a skill set that has to be developed and honed. Because if you can have a clear program promise, and literally we've had clients within the first 30 days of being enrolled in Leverage where their revenue has been, they were able to triple their price and double their revenue, make more money in 1 month than they made all of last year because of a program promise statement. You can suck at sales, but if you have a really good program promise statement that is clear and that describes the measurable, quantifiable outcome that you deliver, you can suck at sales and it will still be good because people will understand what they are getting. They won't question the validity of the value that you're delivering. They will be willing to pay the price that you are charging. A program promise does that. It is one of the most powerful assets, in my opinion, in your business. It's a process, it's a tool that will it'll give you so much confidence. I can talk about it all day. When it comes to discipline, I think the big thing when you think about discipline is not rooted in motivation. So motivation, in my opinion, is one day I can be super motivated. The next day I can be like, F this, I ain't trying to do nothing. Like, motivation is very fleeting. I think it's rooted in our feelings. I think there's ways in which that we can activate and charge our motivation and charge our energy. But discipline to me is really a decision. So if you want to strengthen your discipline, I think you need to become a stronger decision maker. And what I mean by that is, this morning when I woke up, I didn't feel like going for a walk, but I made a decision to go for a walk. And I think a lot of the time when we lack discipline, we lack the decision making of making the choice that's in the best interest of the future version of ourselves. So that's another filter that I use when I feel like maybe I'm lacking discipline or I'm struggling with making the choices that are in the best alignment, is I ask myself, okay, Jay, this is me coaching myself like in my bed or like on a tough day, is like, okay, what choice would the future version of yourself be really proud that you make in this moment? And I really try to anchor myself into my future identity, because when I anchor myself into my future identity, I start making better choices that are more aligned with where I want to be and who I want to become versus maybe where I'm at in my current circumstances. And then it boils down to just make the decision. Like, what decision are you choosing? Are you going to make a decision to stay in bed for an extra 2 hours scrolling on Instagram, watching TikTok videos of homeboy dancing, which I did this morning for a good 30 minutes. You know that dude that's like, hey baby, like that song, and he's like gliding on the ground with his feet, and he's just like in the mall and like on the street. I just keep watching this kid, and I'm just like, I can't get over it. I've tried to learn the dance. I'm absolutely not recording a TikTok, because when I try to do it, that's what got me out of bed this morning. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll really try to do it. Y'all, almost tripped and fell on my vanity. I almost busted my head this morning. I was like, listen, this is not my ministry. My husband had left and went to his office before, so I was at home alone with my dog looking at me like, oh, like, what's going on? I'm like, bro, I don't know. I'm struggling. I made a decision this morning to sit in my bed and watch these dancing reels for 30 minutes. And then I caught myself and said, hey, Jay, last night you had made a decision to say that you wanted to go for a 20-minute walk this morning. What decision do you want to make right now? Do you want to make the decision to stay in bed and keep watching these TikToks and watching these reels? Or do you want to make the decision to get out of bed and go for a walk because you know that your body needs it energetically today? It's a decision. So I think strong discipline is about strong decision making. Write that down. And you always have a choice. I think that no matter your circumstances, no matter your conditions, you always have a choice. Those choices may not be easy. Those choices may feel heavy, but you always have a decision. You always have the power of choice. So strong discipline to me is about strong decision making. And whenever I'm feeling really, really tough, or I feel like I'm indecisive, I ask myself, what is the decision that the future version of myself would make in this moment? And normally that will anchor me in being able to make the decision that is rooted in courage versus rooted in my comfort zone in the moment. The workshop, Will We Create Our Program Promise? 1,000,000%, 1,000%. That's why it's called the Program Promise Workshop. You're gonna learn the framework. You're gonna learn all like attributes or the components that make up a good program promise. I'm going to show you how my program promise has evolved over the last 5 years. I'm going to show you examples from really successful clients and how their program promise has evolved. Like I said, I'm going to give you guys the framework to actually write your program promise. You are going to craft your program promise. Then we are going to coach you and workshop on your program promise. Then you're going to come back and refine your program promise. Then you're going to update your program promise on your social media bios, and you will leave with a clear program promise. 100%. 100%. Wouldn't that be about it? You come to a workshop called a Program Promise Workshop, and then they don't teach you how to make a program promise. I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, wait a minute. This was called a Program Promise Workshop. All this was a shop on work that didn't tell me how to make my program promise. Y'all would call the people on me on that one. Like, that wouldn't be cool. That would not be cute. Y'all could drag me through the internet if I did that to y'all ever, which I would never, ever do that to y'all. Part of the reason why I'm doing this workshop is because I know there's a portion of my audience who's trying to enroll their first paid client, and working in any of my coaching programs is a 5-figure investment. So doing this workshop partly is for me, this is a really approachable opportunity, because if you're looking to enroll your first paid client or your first high ticket client, like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 client, you need to have a program promise. So even if you are newer to making money in your business, or you've had a few clients but you want to elevate or raise the price point, I would still recommend that you come, because having a program promise statement will help you know how to articulate your value so that you can command a higher ticket price point or more easily enroll more clients. And now if you are somebody who's more seasoned in business, we have a lot of people who join Leverage who are making multi-six figures who've never had a promise. They've never had a promise-based statement. So when they have a program promise, the revenue just like skyrockets, because it's like, I don't care if you're making $1,000 or $100,000 or $600,000. Being able to articulate your value is like a gateway drug. It amplifies everything that currently exists. And this is why so many clients, I'd say 70 to 80% of our clients are able to earn a full return on investment for the year of my entire program within the first 90 days of enrollment. And the reason why that is because regardless of where you're at, if you're making $80,000 a year, or if you're making $800,000 a year, having a program promise allows you to more accurately, more descriptively articulate your value publicly. When you can do that, confused prospects don't convert, okay? Confused prospects don't convert. When prospects have clarity on what it is that you are selling and how it solves a critical problem that they have, baby, they will buy. Because it's aligned. It's like, bro, make this make sense. Your program promise makes it make sense. And once it makes sense, it's like, bro, let's do this. Let's go. Throwing my credit card at you. Like, I'm ready to do this thing. When you are going down the organic growth route, it's not about being a shark. I think many marketers approach marketing from a shark mentality. I have to go pitch cold. I have to go cold pitch people. I have to go hunt people down. I have to go attack. It's a very like push, forceful activity. When you're growing organically, you are earning the right to gain people's attention. And it's more about positioning yourself like honey. How do you attract, pull the right people into you? Like, you want your prospects to be bees and you are the honey and they are flocking to you. And that's really the approach that, in my opinion, effective organic marketing does. Okay, I have a question for you. Do I have permission to speak freely? Because I'm definitely about to probably snatch somebody's wig like all the way off. Like, hairline is about to go back a little bit with the statement I'm about to make with you, okay? The thing that I want to communicate to you is how you currently show up, the content you currently publish, the messaging that you currently use, attracted the audience that you currently have. So, if you have an audience based off of how you currently show up, the content you currently publish, what you choose to communicate in that content, and the consistency at which you show up, you built the audience that you currently have. So if you ready to cuss out every one of your followers, you pissed because they don't never want to pay for nothing, it is because of like you are informing the perception that they have of you. So if you think about it, of how do I go find these new people, it's how do I elevate my positioning to attract the right people? Because how I'm showing up, how I'm portraying myself, the language that I am using, the promise that I am telling them that I've solved is what is causing them to be attracted. So if you keep attracting like low committal, low caliber, low wanting to pay for people, it's because that is how they publicly perceive you. That is how they perceive you. But how you present yourself and how you present your offer is what influences their perception. Josie got it. It all starts with self. When I say that, I hope that might be like, damn, that's really like, so you telling me it's my fault my audience is like this? Okay, there's that component to it. But the other component is this should also be really empowering, because you have full control over adjusting and shifting the type of people that you attract to you. You have full control over that. So think about it though, a lot of the time, there's three things that allow people, and I'm going on a little teaching moment here, and then I'll answer your question directly. If people pay based off the value that you can deliver, which I know you probably already know how to do that, the value that you can articulate and the demand that currently exists. If you're really good at delivering value, but you're not yet good at articulating that value, that is where there's incongruence with what we do, the offer that we sell, and the audience that we attract. So having a program promise is the first step, because you might need to elevate your positioning. You might need to have a more sophisticated promise, or have better language to describe the sophistication of the promise that you currently deliver. That starts with your program promise. Then your program promise is what dictates and influences the marketing, the messaging, the positioning. The analogy that I love to use is any Chanel bag. How much does a Chanel bag cost? Just throw it in the comments. I ain't never bought a Chanel bag. I have been gifted a Chanel bag and I never asked how much it cost. But you know, Chanel bag is $3,000, $6,000, $8,000. And that's like a baby bag. Like a Chanel bag is like racks, okay? $4,000, $5,000 easy. Now, if I told you the Chanel bag was $300, okay? The lamb leather with the little quilted imprints with the gold chain. If I told you that Chanel bag was $300, like, hey, served with creativity, I'm gonna show you this Chanel bag for $300. What is the first thing that you would think? This shit is fake. Y'all done bought this in Chinatown in New York. You done bought this out of some back alley. This is a fake, a fraud, a phony. This is inauthentic. It is not real. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you are probably delivering value of an authentic Chanel bag, the quality, the craftsmanship, the commitment to the client. But if you are presenting that bag like you're underpricing, so the value is authentic like a real Chanel bag, but you are presenting it at a $300 price point, selling it at the confidence level and the conviction level of the dude in the back in the alley in New York, people won't believe you. And you like, no, bro, like for real, this is a real Chanel bag. Like for real, this ain't boosted. I didn't steal it. It's a real bag. It's just $300. It's on love, bro. I'm just trying to support you, right? I know you ain't got that much money, but I want you to have this bag. They will not believe you. And the real people who actually understand the value of Chanel, they'll be like, bro, you're undercharging for the value of what you're saying this is. I do not believe you. Your program promise is what positions your authority. It positions the credibility. It should be an accurate representation of the promise that is being delivered through the course of your program. So if you are trying to sell a Chanel bag in all its authenticity for $300, nobody will believe you. So some of you guys here are undercharging and it's damaging your reputation because it's incongruent with the value and the return on investment that you're actually delivering. And the reason that is because you don't know how to present the intangibility of what you're selling. You don't know how to yet present the intangibility of what you're selling. So if you don't know how to articulate that value, present that value, accurately describe that value, and create tangibility around something that is intangible, your program promise statement is what starts that conversation. The perception is incongruent with the promise being delivered. Do y'all get what I'm saying? So we got to stop delivering authentic Chanel bags, but positioning it and selling it like it's inauthentic. Because unless your program is boosted, like unless you are copying and ripping off somebody else, we got to stop acting like it, okay? We got to stop acting like it, boo, okay? We got to come correct. Okay, we gotta elevate, okay? Now, but if you are out here boosting, if you copying somebody else's curriculum, if you mimicking somebody else, if you over here, then maybe this ain't for you, okay? And no shade, I ain't gonna come for you. It's a non-judgment zone. But if your stuff is authentic, okay, if your stuff is credible, if your stuff is based off of what you done, you need to make sure it's congruent, okay? We got to properly articulate that. You know, some people be out here boosting curriculum, be boosting other people's courses, be stealing other people's stuff. That ain't cute. And again, you talk about going back to today's topic. What can you sustain? You cannot sustain a business model that is based off of copying and mimicking somebody else. You can't sustain it. It won't be sustained. You can't do it. It might make you a little bit of money in the beginning, but you won't be able to sustain it. I think a program promise and a mission statement are fundamentally two different things. Your company, you as an individual, you might have a mission that is the anchor behind what it is that you do, but that is not necessarily an accurate representation of the promise being delivered within your program. The promise being achieved of your program probably helps you achieve that mission, but they're absolutely not one and the same. To me, they're not one and the same at all. So like my company, like Jerisha, like Goal Getter Group LLC, like the umbrella of JerishaHawk.com, we are on a mission to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty and we are on a mission to help industry experts become profitable online coaches because our mission is rooted in this belief that entrepreneurship is the bridge to economic equalization. So that is the mission of my company, because we believe entrepreneurship is the bridge to economic equalization. For Black, brown folks and women, we truly believe that being an online coach, there's such a low barrier of entry into this industry. And for most women and people of color, y'all are overqualified, over-certified, provide value 2, 3, 4 times as much as somebody else. You're able to deliver results. And we know that becoming a profitable online coach is a way to build your personal net worth and build your personal wealth and create generational wealth for your family. That's the mission of the company. That is not the promise of my program, because I think sometimes people confuse the business with the offer that exists in the business. It's not one and the same. You might have an offer in the business that exists within the family of the company, but those are two different. There's the business and then there's the offer that is in the business. And I think if you're running a coaching business, your offer is the nucleus of your business. So in order for me to help achieve that goal, we have Leverage is a program, that's our primary coaching program, that teaches industry experts how to add an additional 6 figures in revenue with a curriculum-based high-ticket group coaching program. That's the promise of the program. That's the promise of Leverage. The success of that program helps me achieve my mission, but they are not one and the same. So I hope that helps clarify. Your offer is not the business. I mean, your offer is definitely the nucleus of your business, because everything operationally, all the departments are really heavily dictated and influenced by your core offer. But the mission of the company may not be the same thing as the vehicle in which influences the achievement of that mission. So I hope that makes sense. I want you guys to understand that your marketing is first dictated by your promise. So let's say you have a program promise of like, we help people build their business. And that's the promise. That's a very weak promise, by the way. But if you have a promise that says like, I help people grow their business. Think about if that is the anchor that is influencing the marketing that you create. So then you think about the marketing that you create is probably going to be very generic, very surface level. It's going to be unspecific. It's going to be generalized. Like, I don't know who this is for, what grow even means, what kind of business you're talking about. Versus if you have a program promise statement that helps mental health solo practice therapists build a 6-figure practice without insurance, that is a very defined program promise. And when you think about that program promise and the essence of its specificity, mental health therapists that have a solo practice that want to surpass 6 figures without insurance, now think about how that is going to influence the sophistication of her marketing content. It's specific, it's tangible, it is dialed in. So a strong program promise is literally like the launch pad for you to create more sophisticated marketing content. Leverage is a 12-month program. Okay, guys, like it is a 12-month program, because creating sophisticated marketing content is something that you have to have client data. We have a proprietary process that we teach you using the lean launch in the beginning to go do it. And then you have to use data and you have to continuously refine your messaging over time. So, because you have to also anchor your messaging into your qualifiers. So like, just understand that if you want to create more sophisticated marketing content, you first have to have a program promise. Without a program promise, there's nothing for your marketing to be anchored to. So I think that's a really important distinction. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to y'all later. If you liked the video you just watched, click this one. You might like it even more. Go ahead, check it out.